They dated other people. During no contact. If the avoidant went on dates, flirted, kissed, or slept with someone else during your separation, it's not just disappointing, it's a deal breaker. It doesn't matter if it was just one date, nothing serious, or a one-time thing. If they pursued or entertained romantic or physical connections with others while you were apart, they made a choice, and that choice revealed exactly where their priorities were. You were likely in pain, trying to process the breakup or maintain space with hope. Meanwhile, they were exploring other options. That's not emotional healing. That's avoidance. That's not moving on. That's testing the market while keeping you in the background, just in case. Some relationship experts will tell you this behavior is understandable. They'll say you weren't together, or everyone copes differently. But I won't sugarcoat this for you, because here's the truth. When someone genuinely values the connection they had with you, they don't go looking for replacements. They don't try to distract themselves with new people. They sit with their emotions, reflect on the loss, and work through the discomfort. Alone. Exploring other people romantically during no contact doesn't show healing. It shows emotional immaturity and a lack of respect for what you shared. It also proves they didn't see your bond as something sacred. They saw it as something optional, replaceable, and now that those new connections didn't work out or didn't feel as deep, they're circling back, acting like they've always wanted to be with you. That's not love, that's convenience. Before you even consider letting them back in, ask yourself honestly, can I truly forgive them for what they did during the separation? Can I move forward without obsessing over who they were with, what they did, or why I wasn't enough? Will this memory come up in arguments or quiet moments of doubt? If your answer isn't a clear and confident yes, then don't take them back. Because the reality is, unresolved betrayal turns into quiet resentment. That resentment turns into emotional disconnection. And eventually you'll find yourself hurt again, this time from wounds you willingly reopened. You deserve someone who honors your absence, not someone who tests what's out there while keeping you on the sidelines. You deserve someone who uses separation to grow, not to chase temporary comfort. If they could entertain new connections so easily, they weren't grieving the loss of you. They weren't fighting for the relationship in their heart. They were keeping their options open. And that tells you everything you need to know. They dismissed or minimized your feelings. If the avoidant came back and responded to your pain with things like, "You're overreacting," "You're too sensitive," "It wasn't that bad," that's not emotional maturity. That's emotional deflection. When someone says these things, they're not trying to understand your experience. They're trying to silence it. Instead of listening and validating your feelings, they're more interested in protecting their image and easing their guilt. Even if they didn't intend to hurt you, the impact still matters. A caring partner doesn't argue with your feelings. They take them seriously. They acknowledge that what you experienced was real and valid, even if it's different from how they saw things. A relationship cannot heal if one person is constantly told their emotions are too much. When you express pain and get met with blame, mockery, or cold logic, you start to question yourself. You begin thinking, maybe I am being too emotional. Maybe I should just let it go. Maybe it wasn't that serious. That's emotional manipulation, whether it's intentional or not. You start walking on eggshells. You hesitate to bring up things that bother you. You hide your feelings to avoid being called dramatic. This isn't healing. It's emotional shutdown. Real emotional safety comes from someone who says, "I understand how I hurt you. I get why you feel this way. Even if I didn't mean it, I can see the impact. Your feelings matter to me." That's validation, and validation is the foundation of trust. When your feelings are minimized or dismissed, the relationship becomes one-sided. Their comfort takes priority over your pain. Their need to avoid guilt becomes more important than your need to be heard. And over time, that imbalance becomes emotional erosion. People who can't hold space for your emotions will never be able to meet your deeper emotional needs. And here's the truth. You shouldn't have to fight to be understood. You shouldn't have to explain why you're hurt. You shouldn't have to defend your emotional reality to someone who claims to care about you. If they made you feel crazy, dramatic, or guilty for simply expressing hurt, it's not a sign of strength to take them back. It's a setup for more of the same. Because if they couldn't validate your emotions after hurting you, what makes you think they'll handle future conflict any better? Minimization now leads to manipulation later. And manipulation slowly chips away at your sense of truth, safety, and self-worth. Don't overlook this red flag. A partner who refuses to take your pain seriously is not someone who's safe for your heart, no matter how sorry they seem now. They returned without accountability. One of the biggest signs that an avoidant hasn't truly changed is when they come back with vague, empty apologies like, "I know I messed up. I wasn't perfect. Let's just focus on the future." At first, these words might sound sincere. They might even feel comforting, especially after silence, distance, or heartbreak. But don't be fooled by softness that lacks substance, because true accountability doesn't sound like a Hallmark card. It sounds like this. "I ghosted you for 3 weeks. That made you feel abandoned, confused, and insecure. I understand now how deeply that hurt you, and I take full responsibility. Here's what I've done, and am continuing to do, to make sure that never happens again." That's real. That's effort. That's someone who's actually looked in the mirror. Avoidants often want to skip the uncomfortable part, the part where they acknowledge what they did, how it impacted you, and what they're doing differently. Instead, they try to brush past it with charm, sweetness, or vague promises of being better. But here's the truth. If they can't name it, they haven't faced it. And if they haven't faced it, they're not ready to build anything new with you. Genuine change involves 3 key things. 1. Specific acknowledgement. They clearly name what they did without minimizing, blaming, or spinning the story. 2. Emotional understanding. They show that they understand how their actions made you feel and why it hurt. 3. Behavioral commitment. They explain what they're doing to ensure it never happens again. Therapy, reflection, communication, boundaries, etc. Without these 3, their return is about relief, not repair. They're trying to relieve their guilt, fix their loneliness, or regain comfort, not take true accountability for the damage they caused. And make no mistake, a person who avoids accountability will repeat the same behavior, not because they're incapable of love, but because they're unwilling to look at themselves long enough to change. You might feel tempted to give them another chance because of chemistry, shared history, or the hope that this time will be different. But if they can't even say what they did to hurt you, how can they possibly protect you from it happening again? An apology without depth is manipulation. An apology without action is performance. And a return without accountability is just a pause before the next heartbreak. Don't be swayed by charm or surface-level regret. If they aren't willing to take ownership of the past, they are not ready to co-create a better future. You deserve a partner who takes responsibility, not one who takes shortcuts. They always made themselves the victim. If every serious conversation turns into, "You don't understand how hard things were for me. I was just overwhelmed. I've been hurt so much in the past," then you're not having a two-way conversation. You're watching them avoid accountability by flipping the spotlight back onto themselves. Avoidants who play the victim are masters of emotional deflection. Instead of facing how their behavior hurt you, they change the subject to how much they were suffering. They hijack the moment, turning your pain into their pity party. You try to express your hurt, and suddenly you're comforting them. You bring up how they went silent, how they pulled away, and now you're being told you were too demanding, too emotional, or that you pushed them away. This isn't just exhausting, it's manipulative. They use their struggles as a shield, one that protects them from growth and lets them dodge consequences. And yes, maybe they've had a hard past. Maybe they were hurt too. But being wounded is not the same as being accountable. The problem is that in this dynamic, you always end up being the one who bends. You're always apologizing. You're always explaining. You're always doubting yourself. They rarely take ownership. They rarely say, "You're right. I hurt you, and I'm sorry." Instead, you get, "But what about what I've been through?" This is emotional reversal. It keeps them in control by keeping you off balance. It also creates a one-sided relationship where their needs, triggers, and traumas always come first, and yours get pushed aside or dismissed. It becomes a cycle where you feel guilty for wanting clarity, where you hesitate to speak up, where you shrink to keep the peace. And that's not love, that's survival. Avoidants who constantly play the victim avoid growth by avoiding reflection. They tell stories where they're always misunderstood, always the one left behind, always treated unfairly. Exes are painted as toxic. Conflicts are never their fault. They're always the one who tried, who gave too much, who got hurt again. But here's the truth. If they are the victim in every story, they are likely the problem in all of them. The ability to own mistakes, reflect on behavior, and grow from it is what makes someone emotionally safe. Without that, no amount of love can hold the relationship together. So, if they return and make it all about how they were hurt, they were overwhelmed, they were just trying their best, pay close attention, because someone who truly values you won't silence your pain to center theirs. They won't guilt-trip you into forgetting how they made you feel. They won't use sympathy as a substitute for accountability. And if they always made themselves the victim, especially when you were the one bleeding, they are not someone who can love you in a way that heals. They humiliated you. If they mocked you, insulted you, shamed you in front of others, or used your deepest vulnerabilities against you, do not take them back, ever. That's not avoidant behavior. That's emotional cruelty. Avoidants may struggle with closeness. They may push you away, withdraw, or avoid conflict. But humiliation is not a trauma response. It's abuse. Whether they embarrassed you publicly or attacked you in private, the intent was to tear you down, to make you feel small, to gain power in a moment where you were already vulnerable. And no, it doesn't matter if they were just angry in a dark place or claim they didn't mean it like that. People who love you do not weaponize your insecurities. They don't throw your pain in your face. They don't perform your private wounds for an audience or use your past as ammunition. Humiliation isn't something you work through in a relationship. It's something you walk away from and never tolerate again. Because here's the hard truth. The way someone treats you during a breakup says everything about who they really are. When they thought they'd never see you again, when the relationship seemed over, that's when their mask came off. If they chose to hurt you, degrade you, or humiliate you, then that wasn't an accident. That was a revelation. It revealed their character. It showed you how much or how little they value your dignity. And no matter how much time passes, that version of them is still in there. Letting someone back in after they've humiliated you doesn't show strength or forgiveness. It sends a message. You can break me down, and I'll still stay. Don't do that to yourself. The bottom line, some lines should never be crossed. Avoidant attachment can be worked through with awareness, effort, and emotional growth. But these 5 behaviors are not about attachment styles. They're about character, integrity, and empathy, or the lack thereof. Here's the reality. If someone dated others during no contact, dismissed your pain, avoided true accountability, made themselves the victim, or humiliated you, that's not someone who's safe to love again. Taking them back tells them there are no real consequences for mistreating you. And if they could cross those lines once, they'll do it again, when it suits them. You deserve better than emotional games. You deserve someone who respects your emotions, values your loyalty, owns their mistakes, protects your dignity, loves you without cruelty or power, plays. Let them come back if they want. Let them beg. Let them apologize. but never let them back in unless they've earned that place and proven they're capable of holding it with care. Because at the end of the day, there's one rule that will protect you more than any other. No mercy for the ones who showed none to you.